Hello, welcome to I think it's episode 4 now actually of Soggy Popcorn. Here with Sam. I'm here with Si. I'm Sam. Hi, Si.
Is it episode 4 already?
I think so.
I think that
Episode 4, episode 5? No, it's episode 4. I'm pretty sure.
is it. Okay. It's going
Yeah,
well.
yeah, exactly. Got a whole four, four episodes through, and
Do
still
you
going.
think we've got more episodes than listeners yet?
Well, apparently the most listened to podcast, including the on the game ones, is our very first episode.
Oh, really?
Um,
Five more? Okay, that's good.
so it sounds as if we're losing listeners with each passing
Yeah, we
episode.
probably are. Yeah, people probably thought, oh, there's a new movie one, and then listened to about 10 minutes of it and thought, yeah, it's enough of that.
Yeah, game over. It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so yeah, we've not got sick of doing this just yet. Still going. Okay, yeah, give me some. Okay, so you said I'm seeing Jurassic World in literally a couple of hours. You
Yes.
saw it. What do you think?
It's fun with a capital fun. It's I watched it a couple of nights ago. Big multiplex cinema above a shopping mall here in Malaysia. And even at a what the hell was it? It was like a midnight screening, just past midnight, and it was fully sold out. People here go to the cinema pretty late, and they for some reason bring their like 2 and 3 year olds to the cinema. So there's loads of kids in there past midnight on a Friday night. But that's Asia for you. But it was good. It was everyone seemed pretty pleased in the theater. Kids were like screaming at the dinosaurs, so it was good actually. It was a real, it was a similar effect to the first one in 1993, whatever it was. It was a lot of big spectacle, kind of huge scenes, but scares as well. The first film, I forgot actually as a kid how kind of scary it was. Um, it
Yeah.
had quite a lot of like I kind of don't know if I want to go as far as saying horror elements, but it did have some real kind of scares to it. Some iconic moments with the T-Rex and the Velociraptor and stuff. But bits where you actually kind of felt, oh shit, what the hell's going to happen next? Where you kind of like your whole body goes a little bit tense and you think, whoa, as it had some really great moments like that. And I forgot that's how I felt in the first film. So, it did take me back 30, is that 30 years? Yeah, well, no.
Yeah, yeah, 90. I want to say 93, 94,
94. So
93.
it took me back a good 20 years, but yeah, and it's really there's some quite original, well, some original stuff in it. Some nice characters. I like Chris Pine. He's after Guardians and this, he's probably one of the coolest guys in Hollywood at the
Pratt.
moment. Oh yeah, Pratt, not Pine. That's bloody Star
Star
Trek,
Trek.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Pratt. Yeah, he's good. He's really good in the role. That how do you say it? Bryce
Dallas
Dallas
Howard.
Howard.
Running
Yeah,
little girl.
she adds a little bit of acting weight to it. So she's this kind of plays this workaholic aunt to the two kids. They're the kind of perspective you see the whole film through. She's their workaholic aunt who's managing or one of the heads of the whole theme park, trying to keep the whole thing running. And
Okay.
obviously, like the first one, things go bad. So I'm not going to go into it too much detail. But there's quite basic, just a few characters in there that kind of all the action revolves around. But yeah, some really good. I didn't see it in 3D, but some amazing set pieces.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Just
seeing it
like
in 3D IMAX apparently.
are
Which-
you
Yeah.
okay? Yeah, I didn't even really consider 3D to be honest. I haven't really seen much kind of publicity that it warrants 3D. I don't know if it was shot in native 3D or converted afterwards. But watching it out without 3D, it was absolutely fine. There weren't any moments where I kind of suddenly took me out of the experience, and I thought, oh, that would be pretty cool 3D. I was completely engrossed in it anyway, and that it really for me didn't make a difference. But I think 3D, it should. Well, we'll see afterwards. Actually, it'd be interesting to see what you say. The 3D effect is really like. Yes.
3D effects or what? Sorry.
Well, it'd be interesting to hear what you say the 3D effects are like next week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about it a bit more next week. But I really thought it was going to be terrible, but a lot of people
Really?
said it's not. Yeah.
No, I mean it's not terrible at all. There are some massively cliched moments in it. There are some nostalgic bits, some homages to the original film, loads actually, not just the kind of tinkling music in the background that makes you think, oh, no, 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 Jurassic Park, but there are loads of like the I guess the sequence of events is kind of ignoring Jurassic Park 2 and 3 as it should, and just kind of acknowledging the first one, which seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment actually, ignoring the sequels and just kind of concentrating on the first. So
Yeah, it's the best way.
yeah, the events of the first have happened, So the whole everything that happened 20 years ago did happen, and they've obviously rebuilt and redesigned the park afterwards. But people refer to the Jurassic Park, the original. It's quite nostalgic. It isn't like the big catastrophe that happened that we won't talk about. So there's definitely a lot in there. There's a lot of original set piece scenes. And action sequences for like young kids who haven't seen Jurassic Park before. But for people like us, Jurassic Park was one of the kind of most prominent cinema memories I had as a kid. So for people like us who grew up with that stuff, it's it reminds you of when you were a kid, but also adds some new elements. So it's it's good. It's quite predictable, but there are some really cool kind of sequences in there which more than outweigh any of this kind of predictable cheesy stuff. So I really enjoyed it.
Cool.
But we'll talk more next week because I don't want to go into too many of the scenes because I don't want to ruin it for you.
No, cool. I'm looking forward to it. Well, one thing we were going to chat about last week and that we didn't have time for was Mad Max, which was like has become not only perhaps my favorite film of the year so far, at least, but maybe one of my favorite action films ever.
Really?
Yeah, I think when I see it for the second time, I think I'll be able to make that call with a bit more justification, whatever. But just love the way. I mean, if no one knows, it's kind of like in the Mad Max universe, but it's not from the original trilogy. But it's not like a direct sequel or anything like that. And it's basically just one big relentless chase scene. I don't know if people would have read my review on the website, but yeah, everything about it, just the way it looked, just the pacing, the characters, the fucking sets, the cars, all the art design stuff, was just great. I mean, yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I loved it as well. I thought it was one of the best action films I've seen in a while. Like I discussed briefly before, that I watched the other Mad Maxes in the week leading up to it, and it was really, it's similar in story to Road Warrior, right? Mad
Yeah,
Max
it's
2.
basically
Like
it's
you
pretty
said,
much Road Warrior.
it's pretty much just a long, arduous chase sequence, which is just a kind of assault on the people on the screen, and on the audience. But yeah, I love the way it really reminded me. Well, what was that computer game which pretty much launched with the PS3?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Motorstorm.
Motorstorm is really, Mad Max in general is a bit Motorstormy anyway, but some of those shots, those big kind of aerial shots and stuff of all the crazy vehicles like smashing through the sand, it was so like Motorstorm, and all
Yeah,
the
the
slow
deer
motion.
buggies and motorbikes
Yeah,
and
the
all this stuff.
buggies and the grids and those crazy and the bikes and stuff, and just kind of cutting through the desert like that. So it
Yeah.
really reminded me of that, and it had that kind of like computer game element because just the pace of it. But yeah, I loved it. It's interesting actually because there's so much detail in there that you could quite easily not notice if you hadn't watched the other films.
Mm.
Um, I was surprised actually when this came out, the amount of friends I talked to who hadn't seen Mad Max before. I don't know why. I kind of assumed everyone had seen it, but for some reason, a few of my mates were like, you know what, I haven't actually watched any of the originals.
It's
I
because
tried.
it's like, well, I mean, they don't. It depends on your age, really. Like, I remember watching the Mad Maxes. Huh? Sorry.
So say that again.
Right.
Yeah, is it more like culty than I think it is? Mad Max in general, the originals,
Is it more faulty?
culty, like more of a cult thing. I don't
Oh,
know. I
culty.
thought. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it was always like, I always remember that during, well, what would have been like the 90s, well, the 90s basically, it was always late night ITV2 or channel, sorry, not ITV2, Jesus, late night ITV or Channel 4.
yeah,
It was always
yeah,
on.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and it was one of those films that throughout the noughties and leading up to now, they're just not, it's not on late night TV anymore. So it's
yeah.
not really a surprise that you know, it's like Flash Gordon used to be on, like, I swear, like ITV, like, or BBC One or whatever, at like midnight, like every week or something like that.
Maybe, but
Um,
Flash was also a bit of a had a bit of Saturday afternoon campness to it, didn't it?
what?
With Brian Blessed, Flash Gordon.
Yeah, Flash Gordon did, yeah, but it was still like an adult,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
15, I
That
think.
kind of weird late night fantasy thing, and yeah, like really like feels like Channel 4. You know, when you're up late at like 2 a.m. and you watch like what was it, early 90s, like The Word or one of those weird kind of game shows, which were trying to be really kind of uh, subversive, and then you see, yeah, Mad Max was on at 2 a.m. and you kind of just stay up and watch it, and you know you shouldn't.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
it was that
Yeah,
kind of thing. So it's like, I remember watching, so I saw them, God, I remember seeing the first one, like years, it was basically my introduction to homosexual sex, because I remember like when they raped the guy in the first Mad Max, and he's like running across the desert with like his
yeah,
trousers down or something. Like, "Ah, ah."
oh,
They're like, "What's going on?" And I was like, I
yeah,
remember sitting there watching it, and I was like, "What the hell just happened?"
yeah.
And I think I was with my dad actually. He said something like, he was like, "Oh, yeah, he just basically, you know, they just had sex with him or something like that." And I was just like, "Men
Well, he told it to you straight.
and men."
He did. He didn't try and like.
Cover it or something like that.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember, because I remember like, or he made a joke of it or something like that. But I remember it was just put that thought in my head of like, wait a second, hold on, men can have sex with men, but
Well, I don't know if I call it
trying,
sex. Pretty much assault sex.
yeah,
Um,
no, yeah, it's not
Christian
it's not quite the
sex.
same. But that's the I remember that, and then yeah, again, Road Warrior. I saw after Beyond the Thunderdome.
Right. Yeah.
Beyond the Thunderdome, I just thought was like just some, what it was,
Like a
just
music
like
video.
um, crappy 90s
Yeah.
action. Like it was, I think it was at the same time as things like Fortress, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
Um,
And was it around the same time as Escape from New York and stuff like that?
Escape from New
I'm
York
not sure.
was 80s.
Oh, wasn't it? Yeah. So it would have been.
It would have been, well, if anything, probably Escape from LA, but I think that was late 90s.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that kind of 1990, I don't know when Thunderdome was. I swear it's like, it must be 93 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Something like that. Let's
and
have a
then
look.
I saw Road Warrior well after that. That must have been like late 90s or something like that when I saw that.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite by far. But yeah, I'm surprised you'd not, had you not seen them before then?
No, I'd seen them. You know what? Thunderdome is actually 85. You know. Um.
No
The
way. Thunderdome's 85.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
fuck. Okay, well I didn't, I thought like, oh my god, that makes so much more sense now. Shit. Okay.
Yeah.
You sure it's
They're
85?
Yeah, they're actually made faster than you'd think. Mad Max 2 was 81. Mad Max was 79, I think, and then
Yeah, around about the
Thunderdome was 85.
70s. Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause in my head, you know, there was Mad Max, and then 10 years later they went, okay, let's make another one. But it was pretty, you know, they kind of cashed in on it pretty quickly. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah,
1985.
it was 85. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I
That's
didn't.
the thing. So we were two. So we didn't exist when Mad Max came out, obviously.
Yeah.
But 'cause I had seen them all before, but I wanted to refresh my memory when I watched them again. But I think I'd seen Thunderdome first. Kind of like Star Wars, man. I think I saw Jedi first because it was the year we were born, and it was kind of, you know, the buzz still going when I was kind of like a little kid. But I think I saw Thunderdome first and just thought it was some weird kind of like music video, kind of computer gamey kind of movie.
Mm.
And then I think I went back and must have seen Mad Max, and Road Warrior was quite, when I think I'd seen it again recent, like I say recent, probably at uni or something, when I was actually an adult, and so I could really remember the scenes in Road Warrior. But when I rewatched the first one, I only remembered some sequences, but I didn't remember a lot of it. So I must have seen that pretty young, and I had forgotten just how kind of like creepy it is and
Mm.
unnerving it is. It's actually a really horrible film, isn't it? The first one.
Yeah, I mean,
It's,
I saw, funny enough, the same as you. I didn't watch them all in one week, but like I
mm,
think earlier this year, so maybe like February time,
yeah.
they were on the Sky thing,
Okay.
like on
Okay.
demand, and I watched them all again, apart from
Yeah.
the third one because I fell asleep. But
Yeah. Well, that's
watching the
pretty.
first one again, I was just like, it's not a very good film. I was
Well,
like,
yeah. In the context of 1979, with the limited budget it had,
oh,
I think
yeah,
it's
for
pretty.
like what it is, it's great. But in my
Yeah.
head, I remembered it
Yeah.
being like completely different from what it actually was. Like when I
Yeah.
was watching it, I was like, oh, this feels really like low budget,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
which it is. But
Man, it's really low budget when you rewatch it. Like seriously low budget. It's like, it must be one of the highest kind of profitable films. I don't know, I have to do some research, comparing the budget compared to obviously what the money it's made in the years since.
mm,
But it's a real like nasty little film. Like with the main villain, he's like extremely perverted, but I really like it. It's got a bit of a kind of Clockwork Orange, like that 70s kind of like sinister feel to it. Where this gang of like layabouts who just all they want to do is cause havoc and fuck stuff and rape stuff and just
yeah,
do as much damage as they want with absolutely no kind of like conscience whatsoever. And they're really kind of like gimpy and horrible, aren't they? And it's really like homoerotic,
yeah,
like
massively.
beyond homoerotic, it's pretty much male rape. And then like the way like the characters are just always in kind of weird like squatting positions or hanging from something, and
Yeah,
they're,
just like
they're like sort of
teenagers or something that are
like
just a bit
out.
retarded.
Yeah, it's really weird and like all this kind of gross. They're in like leather, but with like makeup on and always stroking each other's faces and stuff. So yeah, I'd forgotten just how creepy the first one is. And then in Fury Road, there's so many elements to it actually that you wouldn't notice. Like his leg, he's got a leg brace, right? Tom
Yeah,
Hardy.
yeah, yeah,
And unless you'd seen the first one, you wouldn't know why the fuck he's still got a leg brace. And loads of little bits like that. So it's quite funny really because uh, quickly going back to Jurassic World, there's so much in there that nods to the first film, but it's kind of like, hey, I know you've seen the first film, and we'll kind of keep reminding you of it. Even like really silly, stupid things that happen towards the end, where you're just like, oh, I'm so in the moment, I don't care how silly this is. But
yeah,
with Mad Max, yeah, it's a bit different. If you hadn't seen the first film, you wouldn't even realize that there'd been other films. It's just a kind of, it's almost a standalone thing, and maybe because it took so many years in development to make that fourth Mad Max. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's got some of the elements of the first one, but it hasn't got the same kind of creepy, sinister feel to it. But it has still got some really fucking bizarre stuff in it. And I
yeah. I
felt
mean, that's
like,
what I like. I mean, when I was watching it as well, I
yeah,
was thinking of all the like old school Lynch and Cronenberg, whatever, and all that stuff. Where then like everything, there's just an element of like disgust, like like with the
yeah,
weird
yeah,
um fucking dwarf thing, and like the
yeah,
fact that they've
and
got blotches and boils on, and it's like
yeah,
I
exactly.
love all that stuff.
And that became more of a Mad Max kind of Road Warrior and Thunderdome thing, where you had Master Blaster, right?
Yeah, I love
Just
Master Blaster.
yeah, just for absolutely no reason, having this weird little like midget dude and this big kind of like I don't even know how to describe. I
Yeah,
can't
it's
remember.
like
It's
mentally challenged Master.
mentally S&M kind of like monster guy. And so yeah, in the first film, it was more kind of creepy and kind of raw and real, but it had that freak element from the second and the third one, didn't it? With
Yeah,
Immortal Joe, this fucking weird guy who can't breathe, and he's got this body armor on and everything, and that weird kind of baby thing in the basket.
yeah,
And those like naked fat women, and yeah, it's just more of a freak show than I'd expected. But yeah, it is awesome. I really want to watch it a second time actually.
yeah. So do I. I mean, it's I saw it in 3D as well, and like I wouldn't say it
Yeah.
definitely needed
Ah,
it, but at all. But
yeah,
there was points where I was like, this is pretty cool. This in 3D, like especially because it's in the desert and you've got that depth um
yeah, yeah,
to it. That really worked. But
yeah,
one thing about it that I read, and then after I watched it and wrote about it, whatever, and all this stuff, is that
yeah,
um, is he was going on. I kind of forgot his name now. Is it George Miller?
Yeah,
He'd gone on about using like real effects and all this stuff and
yeah,
whatever. And
yeah.
I was like, when I was watching it, I was like, wow, to think that they actually did all this stuff. Not so much. Like, I read an
Yeah.
article, a few articles, and all this
Oh,
stuff.
there's not
And
much CGI. Obviously, there has to
yeah, I
be.
mean, there's a lot of CGI. There's a lot of CGI scenes and stuff in there,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize to what extent. Like even when, and this isn't a spoiler, don't worry, spoiler free. When they're going under the in that not that cave, but you know what I mean, like in those oh god, what they call like canyon things, and
Yeah.
even that, like which I thought would just be like a normal location shot, even that's basically CG'd. I'm like,
Yeah, it has to
okay,
be, as well as the kind of the Oasis place, or the Citadel, right? The Citadel, obviously,
yeah, I mean, obviously that would be all. God, if that was real, that'd be amazing. But yeah,
I think they took a lot of landscape of like the outback in Australia, didn't they? In Ayers Rock and things like that, and then kind of just drew stuff on top.
yeah,
Um,
I think, and like I didn't care, but it's like I think
it
the way it
works.
was like, oh, before going into the film, being told like, oh, there's, all the effects are kind of real. And you're like, oh, okay, right, and you go in, it's like no, it's a bit of a, it's not quite true.
Yeah. I mean, what you see on screen is, not all of it is real, but like the vehicles and the objects and all this, the kind of the production that um, that's all kind of real. The building the war rig, whatever it was, and all the vehicles and the buggies and stuff. So
Yeah,
that's nice. It gives you that kind of like real visceral kind of, you know, like real heavy kind of sense to it, which I really liked. And even like the guitar dude, right? The flame guitar dude.
yeah,
Apparently that was actually made, right?
yeah. That's probably a real guitar. Fucking great. I
Yeah, I
just love the
know.
way it's like, right, we've got to go chase them. Okay, fine, and we've got to get my fucking music man, obviously, to go because I'm going to
Yeah,
go like a fucking
amazing.
parade everywhere. Oh man, I just loved
Yeah,
every single bit of it. And yeah,
yeah,
I know like people say no, it's like it's a Furiosa's film. Charlize Theron is like the main character and stuff, which is kind of true. But
yeah.
I liked the kind of whole thing between her and Mad Max. Apparently, they didn't get on, according to some
Really?
rumors. Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, yeah,
Well,
I read that somewhere.
I mean, it must have been weird because it's strange actually because the way I was going to ask what you think about Tom Hardy's performance because it's very like he doesn't say much, but Mad Max. This is another thing that isn't explained. So if people hadn't seen the original films, they wouldn't know why does this guy barely say anything, and he's kind of inaudible in some points as well. I read that they had to go back and do a lot of what is it, ADR on it and redubbing a lot of the dialogue.
I'm not
Um,
surprised. You can kind of notice it sometimes.
Yeah, with his definitely you can. It's quite actually hard. It's almost like Bane again. It's quite hard to understand a few of the lines. But he doesn't say much, and Mad Max doesn't say much anyway, so you wouldn't really realize that unless you'd seen the original films. But it is a bit of a weird, disjointed performance. It feels like they've shot some scenes, they've come back, they had to go back 6 later and shoot other scenes. I don't know if that was the case or if it was one long shoot and they all did it consistently, but um, to me it felt a little bit disjointed and yeah, he just I could have done with a bit more dialogue from him. But their relationship, I don't know, I'm not surprised actually, yeah, when you say that maybe they didn't get on or who knows. um but it's definitely her film, in terms of uh character kind of arc and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like so in the way that westerns and like the Man with No Name kind of thing,
Yeah,
where someone
yeah,
just rocks on up, doesn't have to say much because it's like
yeah,
they're not they're not really the protagonist. They're
yeah,
just like more of a catalyst,
yeah,
and it's I like the way he didn't. I really like the way he didn't say much. To be honest, it kind of reminds me of like like Drive and whatever and stuff like that, where
yeah,
everything he says is like still super important.
yeah,
And he's supposed to be like having all these inner demons, and he's just like completely like fucked up in one way or another. He's just so you're not expecting him to be like Mr. Chatty Man because he's
yeah,
supposed to be like some nutter who doesn't really want to think about things too much. But I love the whole way. It's like he always considers himself like a lost cause kind of thing. That's all he's just trying to do is just like survive and
yeah.
find his own
Right.
redemption, whatever, and all this bollocks. But
Yeah. I mean, there's all the flashbacks about the kid that he couldn't save, and I was
yeah,
thinking, is that the weird kind of kid? Is that from the Kid Gang from Thunderdome?
Well, I
or
don't know. Like, no, I imagine it's supposed to be his daughter because there's one bit where like
it
he,
was a baby when it died in the first one, right?
yeah, yeah, but I'm just picturing that it's maybe his daughter now. Like, I don't know, because obviously it's not
I don't know.
exactly the same, but it's
I
like
interpreted
you
it
can't.
like it was something that happened in between that we weren't aware of, that we hadn't seen. You know?
Well, because I'm not thinking of it as like a direct kind of sequel
Yeah,
thing. It's like a
yeah,
sideline thing. So I
yeah,
mean, maybe they might go into it, but just watching it, presuming it was like his daughter or something like that that he couldn't save because it's like you couldn't get away from me, Max, or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Rather than being Daddy, Daddy dearest, which would be a bit
yeah,
strange anyway. But
yeah,
or someone like he was supposed to look after Last of Us style, and yeah, because something because doesn't he hear it like as if she's being run over? Maybe I've just made that up because that happens in the
not sure.
first film.
I quite like the way it's implied that it's quite ambiguous like that, though.
Yeah, I didn't
Um,
want like the classic scene by a campfire and just going, I had a
yeah,
daughter once
exactly.
and she died in
Yeah,
front of me or something like that.
I
You'd
like
be
that.
like,
Yeah.
didn't
Because
need
as
this.
soon as you think it's going to slow down and there's going to be some exposition and kind of like exactly like that campfire kind of background, there isn't. Suddenly something fucking crazy happens and then explosions go off and then you're back in the race, kind of the wacky races kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I like it. It was really like you don't expect what's going to happen next, and suddenly you're fucking the whole thing's going insane again. So yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah. I mean, again, it kind of drops you halfway, like, through, well, not halfway, but like in the story in terms of, the girls have already escaped. You don't need to know who
Yeah,
Furiosa really is,
mm,
and it's just, just leaves so enough space for you to fill in how, how you want to fit it in. And I just love the way it's like when they, without ruining it, when they get to the other side or whatever, and they're like, "What do we do now?" And Matt's like,
yeah,
"Yeah, let's do this." And they're like, "Okay." When
yeah.
that happened, I was just like, "Fucking, that was brilliant."
I know
Just-
it's funny, isn't it? Because not much happens in terms of that film. It's like not much actually happens. Like they don't go very far. You know,
yeah,
um, not huge amount of events actually unfold, which leads to the next sequence and the next sequence. Like it's just a kind of balls to the wall race, and
yeah,
just trying to who's going to kill who first kind of thing, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's weird. Like, it kind of reminds me of like, I'm just thinking this, just think off the top of my head, like, you know how like in 300, even though it's like fully CG, but it's just like
Mm.
one event and there's a bit of history and a bit
Yeah,
of thingy, but like, and then you almost had like different bosses. Do you know what I mean? That kind of came
yeah,
in and had to be
yeah,
defeated, or like
yeah,
different
something
waves of
like that.
enemies. It's yeah,
Yeah,
it is kind of similar in that style. So it's, I don't know, I just really I did really like it and everything about it, and the score was really good as well. Because there were some points where I was thinking, if this was edited to a different music,
yeah,
it would give it a completely different feel. But and it's a really bold choice. Some of the stuff that he's done, where it's like not like super pacey, like where he's used like these big roaring kind of classical, majestic
yeah.
things, which in any other film would just be like some fucking dubstep or something like that. Yeah, just I don't know, just really resonated. Just it was just great to watch.
Yeah, it's very kind of like rock and roll filmmaking, isn't it? You just think, how the fuck did this guy convince a studio to make this? Which I think is the most impressive thing about it. Especially considering how long it took. The pre-production, the production, development of the whole thing, and must have really, he must have had some serious conversations with the studio, like how the hell is he convincing them to spend this amount of money on a film like this, which
Yeah,
barely tells a story and is just a huge fucking crazy long drawn out chase and kind of rampage sequence. But yeah, fuck, how the hell did he convince them to do that? It's pretty amazing, and like even that, the score and the originality of it all. But it owns its own style like that, so it's really impressive. He managed to do that at his age as well, and
yeah,
still
definitely.
pull it off. Pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah,
Um, Can I move on quickly?
yeah.
Just I want to before I forget. I knew there was something else I hadn't written down, but I watched It Follows,
Ah,
which I
yeah.
wanted to quickly mention, right? Because last week you said to watch it. I was on a bit of a horror binge, right?
Mm.
Man, I fucking loved it. I thought it was really, really good.
It's great, wasn't it? I really enjoyed it
Man,
as well.
it really had me thinking a lot, actually, and I still want to write a review for it for the site. Um, yeah, it really for the few days afterwards, I just couldn't get it out of my mind. Actually, I couldn't shake it off. It was for those who don't know, directed by David Robert Mitchell. He hadn't done much before, had he? He'd made one,
No.
um, another kind of horror film which didn't have much publicity, but he made this on a relatively small budget, right?
Yeah. He did, yeah.
And it's, it's really, again, it's really really simple story, just about a young girl, like a 19-20-year-old high school student who, um, I guess, gets this kind of
STD.
yeah, I mean, it's a guy, this guy she's dating, um, somehow, well, through sex, basically passes on haunting to her, and then something follow. It's like if you sleep with somebody, you pass it on to that person, and then something will follow that person, and it won't give up until they're dead. And that the thing following that person could be in the shape of anybody. It could be in the shape of your friend, your parents, a stranger, whatever. So the whole idea is really simple. And I read something the director said whenever when he was like pitching it to studios and he'd tell them the premise, just a very simple kind of plot, they just laugh because he's basically saying something follows a kid. They have to have sex with another kid to pass it on, and then something will follow that person. And it's kind of ludicrous, really, because it's so simple. But it really, really works. And then so any like this, it turns into like a bit of an STD parable. You have to have sex with somebody to pass this on, and then the person who passed it to you can still see the kind of the
Monster
ghost.
thing.
Yeah, so the person who's passed on, let's say the STD, is still aware of it, and they can still die from it, because if the monster thing kills the person you've passed it on to, it will then try go back along the line and kill the people who had it before. So I mean, there is obviously like an STD metaphor, but I think it's also like a coming of age thing, that like these kids, it's basically a group of kids who are like 19, 20, 21, late high school student, college students or whatever in America, and it's kind of like it's set in this very, it's got real 80s feel to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, really
Um,
80s, even though you're not quite sure when it's set, you just presume it's around now, but it's a very
yeah, that's
80s
what
kind of style.
loads of 80s styles, really kind of like synthy music, really, really nicely shot, really nice wide shots. And I think a lot of the reason he did that, because in a lot of the scenes, you kind of see people just slowly walking towards the camera or a character in the background, which you might not notice at first watch, but in the kind of corner of your eye, because these are nice wide shots, you see people just walking slowly, and you kind of think, is that the ghost who's manifested somebody else, some stranger, and are they actually slowly walking towards the victim? And I'll
Yeah.
point to the ghost that wants to slowly walk, so it doesn't run, so it slowly walks, so you can drive or run away from it quite easily, but it will keep persisting and keep coming towards you, and you can't get away from it, which is really just in its simple kind of like idea. It's really creepy actually, and it's really scary, I think.
Yeah, it's
um
horribly creepy.
yeah, and I like the way it's set. Like it's got this 80s feel to it, a lot of 80s style with the costumes and
Yeah,
the
it's like
music.
Napoleon Dynamite a little bit.
Yeah, it is, because in a way it's like there are things in it that don't make sense. So one of the characters, it's kind of like Scooby Doo as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
it's like, one of the characters kind of geeky, big, thick rim glasses, and she's got a a makeup mirror shell like e-reader, which I don't think exists, right?
No, it
Um,
doesn't. I don't, well, as far as I know, it doesn't exist. No.
yeah, it's just this stupid, quirky little product that doesn't exist, but they put it in the film, which is kind of futuristic, but kind of not. And she sometimes reads from it, and she's like quoting some sort of like profound quote about death, basically,
Yeah,
because it's quite more. And it's set in this like in the 80s, but in a weird version of the 80s, or even the near present, or even near future, which is kind of like a dream-like feel to it, which I like, because the whole point is that whole film is like a nightmare, like a continuous nightmare. So there's a lot of they watch like vintage old TVs for some reason, and watch like 1950s black and white monster movies on the TV, but as if it's the new TV in the bedroom. It's not like they're being hipster
yeah.
and like ironic by watching this shit. And they got battered old cars, and you don't see any mobile phones in the whole film, I don't think.
That's a good
And
point. You don't.
it's yeah, it's there is there is no kind of time period you could put your finger on, but it's got a lot of 80s style to it. But I like the way, I interpret it like it has got an STD metaphor to it. There is a bit of like, don't have sex with strangers, or something could catch up to you. But it's also like a coming of age thing, and awareness of like mortality, where these kids, it's like when you're around that age and you start realizing, maybe someone has died, or you hear of a friend, so something's happened where you suddenly realize for the first time we're all going to die. You can't get away from it. It's always going to get you in the end, and it's just all about doing what you can to prolong your life. And that I interpreted it in that way as well. These kids suddenly being enlightened and not realizing what their mortality actually is,
Yeah.
and like it's what you do, what you do to try and put it off, and which actually brings people together. But that aside, fuck, it's scary. It's actually really scary. And for
Yeah.
the first time in a while, it really, I got to sleep, but it took me about 10 minutes to get to sleep afterwards. I was really thinking about it, and I was looking at the corner of the room in the dark while I was trying to get to sleep, and I was a bit like, oh, what if someone's just standing there walking towards me?
That's just the thing. It's like,
Yeah,
not to spoiler free, there's one bit where it's all kind of happening at night, and like my girl opens the door, she's like, "What are you doing?" or something, and then
yeah,
just that really we're in it, but then just that kind of scare thing. I was just like, fuck, but that's kind of what the whole point of it. It's just like this slow walking and like knocking on the door.
yeah, it is. It's just really intense and really kind of, it's got a sense of dread in that film that I haven't felt in a long, long time. And it's just something you can't stop. And in the way this monster thing, which isn't really explained whatsoever, can be in the shape of your own parent or your own boyfriend or a complete
Yeah,
stranger, just slowly walking towards you in the distance on a field, and you're kind of like, oh fuck, I've got to run away from it. And just there's one like really short line in the film where the guy gives it to the girl by having sex with her, and this isn't a spoiler, it happens quite early. And then he says, like, he's telling her the kind of rules, which is a good way of doing it because he wants her to survive, because if she dies, it comes for him. So
yeah,
he's kind of like put in a situation where he's telling her the rules, what she has to do, and he just says, "Don't go into places without more than one exit."
yeah,
And I just kept thinking that, rethinking that in my head every time there was a new scene. I was kind of like, "Do not walk into a place without one exit. You need to be able to run out of the door if you're going in another door, because this person or this monster could suddenly walk in at any moment." And I kept thinking, like, can you walk into like one door, lock the door, let the monster come in, then run out another door and lock it, and he'll be stuck in there? Or like, could you get on a plane and fly away, and will it eventually get you? And I just kept thinking all these things, these
yeah.
like ideas, these escape plans, even like 3-4 days after I'd seen it, and which is really good, a good sign that it's like it's really been lingering in my head afterwards watching it. And yeah, it really did creep me out, and I think it's the best, especially considering the style of it all, the uniqueness and the originality and the kind of fresh, it's like teenagers, it's a high school horror film, but it's got some real like intelligence to it.
Yeah,
It's not just a stupid slasher film, and it's got some really good homages back to like, Michael Myers and Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th as well, because a lot of that has to do with like youngsters having sex, right? So it was great. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the best horror film I'd seen in ages. So I think it's gonna be hard to beat that this year for a horror film for me. It was out earlier this year, wasn't it?
yeah. It was.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's quite.
but I still,
It's fairly recent. It's not.
yeah, only a few months, right? But I would,
Yeah,
yeah, thoroughly recommend it as a horror fan. So it was
yeah.
great.
I really liked it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's like one of the. Um, yeah, it was the best horror I've seen in a long time. And it's not even horrific. Like it's not as if
Yeah, that's the thing.
it's not like an actual horror, like people who don't like horror. It's more like it's just like a Twilight Zone episode kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And it hasn't got the usual horror tropes. It hasn't got like a screaming kind of like, uh, I don't know, like a monster suddenly crawling out of the water, or like, it hasn't got these kind of cliches that a lot of the recent horror films have. It's got a lot of originality to it. And it just kind of dared to be different, didn't it? But it still worked. The creepiness and just that dreadful, that feeling of dread the entire time, where you just feel really uncomfortable the whole time. Just really got me actually. So
Yeah,
um, I thought it was, yeah, I'm really impressed by that. I'll be interested to see what he does next, that director.
Yeah, it's good. What did you think about that guy's mum, by the way?
What guy's mum?
You know what guy?
What, the
You know
in the film?
the guy in the film with his mum.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was interesting.
That was great. That bit.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't expecting that.
I was like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it went. Yeah, that scene got really weird as well. Because like there's suddenly all this blue light and stuff, and you're kind of like, what the fuck? But yeah, that was really cool actually. 'Cause that character was funny because the dynamic between all the characters, it's kind of like, oh, should I just have sex with you and take the curse away from you and save you, or should I kind of just keep my distance because you're fucked? And that was really cool. It makes you think even more.
Yeah,
Do you suddenly just have sex with the nearest stranger and run away from them, but you know that they're probably going to get killed anyway in 5 minutes because they don't know the rules, and then it's going to come after you anyway. Or do you convince a mate and have to have sex with you and go, there you go, good luck with that, but here are the rules, so don't fuck me over, right? So
yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
love the way that she was still like, he's not safe.
yeah, exactly, yeah. That's what,
um,
yeah, it's great, man. It's really cool.
yeah, yeah, definitely. If you should watch it. I mean, like the only thing I really watched this week was Grand Piano um,
Okay,
on Sky, which I remember hearing about it and going, oh, it's a bit Hitchcock and all this,
yeah,
and it's not really. It's
really.
yeah, it's a really stupid premise. Elijah Wood is good though in it, and
Yeah,
it's also got that
John
um,
Cusack as well.
John Cusack, but he's like the voice. It's like Phone Booth basically, where like Kiefer
Okay,
Sutherland is the
okay.
voice.
Yeah,
So it kind of pops up at the end, but he's not really in it. And I thought it was going to be something like it was in his head the whole time or something like that.
right.
But
Yeah.
it's not. But what's really weird is it's got Bill from Bill and Ted. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
Alex Winter, I think his name is.
Yeah, he's a
I've got that
documentary
right.
maker.
It's crazy. Huh?
He's a documentary maker now.
Well, also part-time actor, apparently.
Yeah, he's
Um,
still acting, but he's like all about the dark web and stuff. I think
oh,
I
really?
did a podcast recently with him on it. Yeah, he did a documentary. I think it's him anyway. He did a documentary on the dark web, the deep web and all this stuff, and all
Yeah.
about like Silk Road and what's that browser you have to use to get into the dark
Onion.
web?
The Onion.
No,
Oh.
no, it's called. I don't know. It's called something else that you have
Yeah,
to
but it's
use this.
called it's a pseudonym for the Onion thing.
Oh,
Um,
right, is it? Oh,
yeah, the Onion browser, whatever. Hold on a sec. What's it called?
okay. Yeah, he
Tor.
did a
Yeah, it's
documentary
Tor.
on it.
So it's the Onion.
Oh, that's what it stands for. Okay. Yeah, he did a documentary on that. So apparently he's quite a investigative documentary maker these days.
Okay.
But he turns up in that film, does he?
Yeah, he's in that film, and Elijah Wood's good. I mean, he's always kind of that level, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
his acting, it never really. He's good at one note, and he does that quite well here, and because it kind of fits his style of acting.
Right. Okay.
Um, but and it's all right, like just seeing it's that whole thing of like Phone Booth, like where it's just
Yeah.
one. It all takes place over like one night, and it's like, what if someone had a gun to your head and said, "Don't miss a note"? Would you still be able to play and play well?
Okay.
Um, but the actual idea, the reason why is just fucking stupid. But there's like 100 other ways they could have. This person could have done what he to get what he wanted. He could have done 100 other things rather than this.
Really.
And stupid, but and it's also got
Too predictable.
huh?
It's a bit too predictable, or at least too kind of
Well, not predictable, but it's just like you're just like, why is he even doing this? Like,
right.
really? And then like when you find out, you're like, oh, it's a bit stupid.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be a metaphor for him and like this for Elijah Wood and the relationship with his old master
Right.
and confidence and all this stuff, and all that bollocks you can read into it. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't sitting there like gripped or like biting my nails. I was
Yeah.
like, but it wasn't crap. It just wasn't very good. I mean, I'd had a hard time recommending it to anyone. But it has got that girl in who I've actually met, who's in Saint Trinian's 1 and 2, I want to say.
What is
I
that?
can't remember what else he's been in.
She must be.
she's a leggy blonde. Yeah, it's got her in. Who else? No one really. No one else of note.
BK, is that her? I'm
Huh?
looking at my now. Oh, Tamsin Egerton, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, her.
Oh, yeah, yeah, she is hot. Oh, yeah, she is in. Oh, she's in a few things. She's British, right? She
Yeah,
must
she's
be.
British. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I was doing something for MTV. Had a chat with her. She's quite nice. Classic kind of like, um, I'm better than this kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I can tell just by looking at the picture of her profile picture.
Yeah.
And she was born Tamsin Egerton Dick, so she dropped the dick. Probably a good thing.
Brilliant. She dropped the
Yeah,
dick. She dropped the dick.
dick, yeah. Yeah, she's
Um,
in a few other things. Yeah.
yeah, but it was. But that's yeah, that's the only thing I think I've really watched. I mean, I've been watching a lot of. I finished the. I watched the 10th series of It's Always Sunny, which is great.
Oh my God,
Which
still
everyone's
going on
talking
with
about.
that. It's still going. Is Danny DeVito still alive?
He's still
Uh,
knocking on, still in it. I've actually started watching Community. Have you watched any of that?
yeah, yeah, I've seen a few. I never really got into it too much.
No,
Uh,
I mean I really hated it, and then I've kind of grown to like it a bit more because of I've kind of accepted what it is,
yeah.
um, more than
Who's
anything.
in
But
it?
it's still
Who's in
fucking
it again?
American, huh?
Uh, Community. Who was in it again?
It's Chevy Chase and
Oh
the guy
yeah.
from the Chinese guy from The Hangover. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's probably not
He's not.
Chinese. It's probably quite
Yeah,
racist.
he's Korean, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Whoops.
they,
And
they
Donald
were
Glover.
Chinese unless proven otherwise. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Unless he shows me his passport.
yeah.
But it's annoying actually. Funny enough, you know, because Donald Glover was touted that he might be the next Spider-Man in
Oh, okay.
because Spider-Man's going to be in Civil War now. I think definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but everyone's like, he's like 30 years old, like 30, 35 or something like that. You can't play Peter
I
Parker.
thought the Spider-Man must be a kid, going to be like 15-year-old again or something.
Yeah, so I can't remember the names of any, but have a Google if anyone wants to. But it's literally
Right.
some like real bratty kind of classic American like fucking teenage blobs
Right.
who look about 12. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
right, so Spider-Man's going to be shit. Never mind. Um,
Yeah. That's fun. I'm just looking at Community now. Oh, that girl is in it from
Alison
uh,
Brie or the blonde one?
Alison Brie, right? That's funny because that's a link into what I was going to talk about. Shall I talk about it?
Yeah, go on. She's incredibly hot, by the way.
Yeah, well, there you go. She's never been hotter than in this film. I don't know when it actually came out in the UK, but I watched it this week. Get Hard with Will Ferrell. Um,
No, I don't know if it's actually come out. Yeah,
really?
it probably has. It's probably
Well, she's in that, and she plays his wife. And I've never thought she's hot before, even in Mad Men. I thought she's just a whiny, annoying character, the wife of whatever his face is.
yeah.
But
God, I forgot
she's
about that.
very hot in this because she's all lingerie'd up, and she's supposed to be the hot trophy wife. So yeah, she is hot in this. But yeah, so this week I watched Get Hard. So Will Ferrell comedy vehicle about in which he plays a high salary stockbroker trader type guy who's just been invited to be a partner in his future father-in-law's firm.
Okay.
He is framed for embezzlement or tax avoidance or something, and then he's given 30 days notice grace period before he goes to prison for 10 years. Okay. As you can expect, then the whole story is about him assuming that Kevin Hart, who's also in it, his character, who is his car washer, he washes his car. He assumes because he's black, he's been in prison, and he says, "Can you teach me how to be in prison?" Kevin Hart is in financial trouble, but he's actually not a hard prison type black dude. He's like a chino kind of like pant wearing polo top kind of very white middle class type black guy. Like
Okay.
he's like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. What's the
Carlton.
Carlton kind of character. That he wears that kind of clothes. That even his wife is taking the piss out of him, saying, you're not that kind of black guy. But he goes along with it for the ride and kind of says, yeah, okay, I'll, for a fee for $30,000, which I happen to need. I'll teach you how to be hard, how to get hard, and survive prison. So then it's just loads of these kind of funny, well, stupid situations where he's training Will Ferrell in being street and gangster and trying to survive in prison, right? So there are loads, as you'd expect, of like race jokes and
Yeah, I was going to say, like, probably pushing the line, I imagine.
all just a race and gay joke. The whole thing. A lot of it is pretty offensive and really not funny at all. I'm surprised they put some of the jokes, some of the gags in there. It's funny, you know. It's well, the film isn't necessarily funny, but what's funny is a lot of the gay kind of humor in it. The jokes about stuffing stuff up your bum and having to learn how to suck dick to survive in prison. And you know, in a juvenile sense, those scenes are quite funny. But it's like, you know, is that funny anymore? The, the whole, you know, like, he's not gay, but he's going to have to suck dick in prison thing. I don't really find Kevin Hart that funny, and all it is just him kind of screaming, and then Will Ferrell screaming louder than him, and then Kevin Hart screaming again. And Kevin Hart always, you can tell they're told to like just improvise while they're doing these scenes. And whereas Will Ferrell, you know, he's been doing that for years, and you know, he just says something just completely ridiculous, stupid, that you'd never think you can construct a sentence like that, and it just, you know, you kind of think that's ludicrous, but that's quite funny. All Kevin Hart does is scream and then repeat the same thing he's already said again to try and exaggerate it,
emphasizing every word
more, and it doesn't even work. And it's all about, I'm black, you're white. You know, there is one funny scene kind of towards the end where they just joke about gang names, and then Will Ferrell is called mayonnaise and Kevin Hart is called chocolate. And like, on the surface, it's just ridiculous. You know, there are so many gags in that people could be offended by. But yeah, it's all about basically having to learn how to stuff things up his butt and suck dick before he goes to prison. But it's not particularly funny. But if you're a Will Ferrell or Kevin Hart fan, you may as well watch it. But I also watched Unfinished Business, which is a Vince Vaughn film. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, is that the one where he plays an office worker, basically, or something like that? It's got that British guy in.
Yeah, it's got is it Tom Wilkinson, I think?
Yeah, Tom Wilkinson, yeah.
And Franco's little brother, it's Dave Franco, isn't it? Dave Franco?
Yeah,
Franco.
yeah, I think so.
And it's about Vince Vaughn. It's kind of a crude, bad taste comedy in a sense, but also tries to be serious. Like, for some reason, Vince Vaughn films recently have been, you know, with like The Delivery Man, and they're all supposed to have a moral to them. I don't fucking know why. But it's essentially still kind of bad taste comedy on the road, because they go on this business trip to Europe. But it's just about him. He sets up his own company as an insurance company, and he's only got 3 of them, and they need to strike a deal with another company, and they have to go to Germany to strike this deal. And if they don't get the deal, then he's going to be even more financial ruin than he already is. It's a very simple story. And Tom Wilkinson is kind of like this retired 70-year-old who's just kind of going along for the ride, way past his best, but he's just struggling along and staying in the company. And Vince Vaughn can't find anyone better anyway. And Dave Franco basically plays a mentally retarded kid who happens to be at the right place at the right time and get a job when Vince Vaughn starts his new company. So he's basically a simpleton, and they kind of realize throughout the film that he's, you know, mentally challenged. But again, in this film, there are loads of dick jokes. And what's funny is in Get Hard and both Get Hard and Unfinished Business, there's a scene in both films about a straight guy getting a dick on their face, right?
Right.
It's like, is that funny? I don't even know. Is that, should people be offended by that, or is that, you know, is that still funny?
I think I might find that funny.
Yeah, I mean, I giggled. I kind of giggled at both of the scenes, but I watched them back to back, and I was kind of like, both of these films, a straight guy, a kind of like they don't mean to, but they're put in a position where suddenly there's a dick on their face. Like, why is it in both of these films? Why is so much like, you know, gay bashing humor going on? But
2015, dick in face.
Yeah, pretty much. Face. Yeah, touching random guys' dicks, and then suddenly it's on your face, and then afterwards you go, "Oh my god, I can't believe that was on my face."
Can't believe it was in my mouth.
Yeah. But they're both like, unfinished business. It tries to be serious in part, but there's a few funnier scenes than Get Hard. I'd say there's a few scenes which are pretty good, and I think that's just because Tom Wilkinson, he plays it pretty well on there, and it's a little bit kind of more better written, and it's got a bit more of a British sense of humor. I found anyway. There's a few
Okay.
British characters. Deanna Miller's in it as well, and Nick Frost. So it's got a bit of a European, more of a European sense and British sense of humor in it. So it's okay. It's not too bad. But Vince Vaughn still annoys me, you know. And it's only what, a week or two until True Detective comes out. So I still don't know what the hell it's going to be like with him in there.
Yeah.
But
Fuck, man. Can't
for
wait.
some reason, I always watch Vince Vaughn films when they come out, but he always plays exactly the same fucking character, and he
Yeah.
always fucking annoys me. But I still watch them anyway. I don't know why, and maybe that's why he keeps making films. But yeah, so there you go. Let's Get Hard and Unfinished Business.
I think he's going to be looking at the True Detective trailers. I know we were talking about it anyway for the last couple of weeks. I
Yeah,
really think he's going to be this like horrible, fucking nasty character.
yeah, I think so. Like you said, it's going to be kind of like Psycho. Hopefully, he's going to just play it very nasty.
Yeah,
Um,
just how I like
I
it.
hope there's no. Yeah, I hope there's no. He's not going to throw any comedy in there. I'm sure it won't be. It's just a weird casting decision, but yeah, I think he's, as long as he's this kind of freak character, because he does kind of have a weird, freak, kind of very unique, weird look to him, doesn't he?
Yeah, it does. At least because he's kind of got those dead eyes sometimes as well.
Yeah, bulgy eyes, and he's very lanky, and he could easily, you see him in the street and think he's a fucking weirdo. Um, you know,
It's a great description of him.
but yeah, so who knows what that's going to be like, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, as well. Just completely off the subject a little bit, but just talk about TV.
Mm.
And by the time people listen to this, the finale is probably already happened at Game of Thrones. Have you been up to date on
Uh,
Game of Thrones? I'm not going to ruin this for anyone, by the way. This
yeah,
isn't a spoiler.
yeah, I'm up to date. I'm can't wait to see what's in store tomorrow, the final episode.
Yeah, so I think I know what's going to happen because it's all kind of catching up with the books now. But the one that was before the last episode, so when Jon Snow was
Yeah,
with the world, that was one of the best things I'd seen on TV in
that
since
was one
True
of
Detective,
the,
probably.
yeah, that was one of the best 20 minutes of my life. Or at that moment, I thought it was. It was
Yeah,
fucking amazing.
just like,
It was.
literally that final bit where they're just on that boat. This isn't going to make sense to anyone else watching it, but don't worry, I'm not going to no spoilers. But when they're on that boat, just looking back and they're looking at each other, I was just like,
Yeah,
fuck, that's really intense. And there's nothing, it's just that silence. It's just like, fuck, this is gonna fucking, because none of that shit's in the book.
yeah, I heard. Yeah, I
That's
heard that they barely even mentioned that battle in the book, right? That they just they wanted to have an kind of intense scene in the series, so they just stretched it out.
yeah. I mean, they're doing it's good because when you're reading the books as well, like with the White Walkers and all this stuff, like they're hardly in it. Like they're in it even less than they're in it in the TV series now.
They're becoming
So
the biggest thing in the TV series. It's becoming, that's the whole point,
it's
right?
like,
That's in the TV series. The White Walkers are becoming the kind of virus that you can't stop.
yeah, and it's
They're,
kind of like that in the books, but they just don't talk about it. It's just like it's just kind of there, always kind of going on in the background. But yeah, with the TV series, they really take advantage of the fact that they're like these things could look fucking cool. We need to utilize them, and they're totally like I don't know, man. Like literally, there's so much stuff in like in last week's one with the fire. If you know what I mean,
yeah,
that was like
yeah, yeah.
that really
That
fucking got me,
But that
got
didn't
to me.
happen in the books either. That didn't happen in the books, did it?
No, see, because I was saying this to Tess, well, my other half, I was watching it. Like, I
Mm.
was like, I remember about babies and stuff, but I don't remember this happening. But the
Yeah.
thing is, because it's been like, I mean, I haven't the last when I finished the book about 4 years ago or something now, or
Right, they're
whenever it
still
was.
waiting for the new one.
Huh?
Still waiting for the new one for that
Yeah,
long.
still waiting for the new one. But that's what I mean. So I've like kind of forgotten about most of this stuff. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of feeling a bit fresh. Like this, how last week's episode ended was, as far as I know, I'm not going to ruin this, but was the second to last thing that happens in the books with that character. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
well, the wait, really? Because I heard that because this isn't a spoiler, but Tyrion meeting
Yeah, that's
uh
not happened. Tyrion, when that shit
Tyrion,
kicks off in the
yeah,
books,
right?
Tyrion isn't there.
Yeah. So they kind of made that up,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, but
there's quite a lot that they seem to be making up. Well, not making up, but they seem to be going off onto a tangent and kind of thinking, okay, let's speed things up here for drama,
yeah,
that isn't in the book.
that scene's in the book, but Tyrion's not there.
Right. Okay.
He's
I
still
see.
trying to get there. Anyway, we're kind of
Yeah. Right.
we're starting to give things away now a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'm
With
interested to see what they'll do as the big finale for this season because I'm like, okay, there's a couple of things they could do as the big, like the big ending, but I don't know
yeah.
what it would be.
Well, my thoughts on the season. One thing is where the fuck's Bran? He just,
Well,
I don't
Bran's
think he's
go on.
turn up in this last episode, is he? Because the actors, Bran and that crew, Rickon or whatever, they weren't even booked for the series, were they? So they're never going to turn up in the series.
Yeah, so
But
Bran caught up when he goes and he sees that guy sitting on that throne,
yeah,
feeling that tree. Oh,
yeah,
fucking hell! I'm trying to do this without giving it away. Um,
yeah.
when, basically when that happens, that's the end in the books. So anything that's they do with that anymore
Right,
is
right.
completely new territory.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. I like the
Um,
way it's like, well, the Stark kids could come back.
the
Now
thing is,
Sansa kind of like knew, kind of like she know this isn't really much of a spoiler, but now she kind of knows that Bran isn't dead. So it's like, oh, she's reinvigorated her. So I like the way it's like Stark kids, they could come back and rule, save the day.
well, this is
But I,
it. So like with the Starks, obviously, okay, trying to do this without giving it away. Bran is told that he's gonna be um, mega powerful.
yeah,
John,
he kind of,
yeah, John kind of is becoming um,
yeah,
mega
he's a hot rod.
powerful.
Yeah,
Obviously, one of them when something happened, um,
yeah.
and then kind of forgot who else. Oh yeah, so Araya, whatever her name is,
Uh,
who's
yeah.
yeah, she's like becomes like fucking Assassin's Creed basically.
Yeah, she's basically an Assassin's Creed.
It's what
Like,
happens. Um,
yeah,
and then Rickon, it's not Rickon, but whatever the little
yeah,
Brand's little brother, is it Rickon?
yeah, I think
Like
so.
he's just kind of hanging around. He's like nothing. But yeah, you just have this thing that they're all like super powerful in different
Yeah.
ways.
Well, I like that the way this season has reminded us that it's the story of the Stark kids. But I think that in overall, I'm pretty disappointed with this season compared to the last ones. I
Oh
think that
really?
yeah, I am. Apart from that 20 minutes in the ice, which was fucking amazing. Before that happened, the couple of weeks leading up to that, I really thought, fuck, this is dragging. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy it. I like the kind of all the dynamic between the characters and Cersei getting chucked in jail and all this, all the politics of it is always interesting. But I thought that nothing much has actually happened, and it's becoming really disjointed. Yeah, Arya's going off to learn how to become fucking Assassin's Creed, and then Tyrion's gone off on a boat to visit Daenerys, and then this whole thing between whatever the hell that place, Dorm, is it? It's
Yeah.
basically the Mediterranean. And then and King's Landing and the Timon or whatever, the little new king being completely like uh, incompetent and too
Mm.
young for the job. I just felt that it wasn't really leading to much, which was going to glue them all together. I felt that the story arcs were kind of getting too separated, and I didn't really enjoy the season as much as I had previous seasons.
Yeah.
But that,
I
that
mean,
20 minutes, man, it was amazing. It kind of made up. It really it was incredible, and it really put just the kind of zombie element, the horror zombie element to that ambush, that slaughter, put a lot of zombie films in their place. With the little zombie kid who suddenly was like just standing there going,
yeah, that's
and
great.
you could see through him and his ribs and stuff, and it was just like four little kids, and then they quickly jump on them on people, and it was amazing. It was like a lot of horror films couldn't come close to that 20 minutes.
No,
And the way they
I'd,
all the
I'd rather watch that 20 minutes again than like World War
yeah, I
Z.
mean, Yeah, exactly. It really was incredible. Like you said, that feeling you get when he's floating away on the boat, looking back, and it's that sense of
Fuck.
fuck. Literally like fuck. There's no way. How the fuck are we going to defeat this?
Yeah.
Empty feeling. And he played it really well, man. He's been so wooden really the last few seasons, but I think he's come into his own. That actor.
I really like the way he plays John, but it's just a bit like where he
Yeah,
looks up as well, and there's just them four on a horse,
yeah,
just
fuck,
standing
amazing.
down. I was just like, this is fucking amazing. This is great,
Yeah, and then the
great
King
fucking
guy is kind of like, oh, I have some competition. Interesting. Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, that was really good. So I really hope that it goes out with a bang this tomorrow, the final episode. I hope it
Okay,
isn't all talking and dialogue and like, oh, now we have to go there and you'll have to venture here. And what could happen? Could she really be the leader and the new queen that we're looking for? And then raise all these questions for next season. I hope it doesn't do that. I want some more action. I want some more stuff to happen to
yeah.
make up a bit of a lackluster season apart from that 20 minutes in the ice. So
I
we'll
mean, what
see.
I think will happen, and this won't give anything away. I
Mm.
think it says I can never know how to say their name still because it's
Yeah, good
Thursday.
notes.
So she, because of her situation, that comes to a head a little bit. So I'm
Yeah, must.
guessing they'll probably get that.
Yeah,
There's a certain scene that happens in the books that sticks in my head anyway,
right.
and I think they'll do that. Um,
Okay.
I think um, they could do one big death, um,
Yeah, I think
which
it's a new one, isn't there? There hasn't been one for
there hasn't
well,
been one for a while, but there's
not key character anyway.
yeah, and I mean I kind of know who it'd be if it was, but I think it might be too soon before they do that. Just trying to think of the narrative.
Okay.
Um,
The
or
timeline's all over the place, right? I guess it's hard to tell now. If you're the
yeah, I
book
mean it's
reader,
kind of
well,
catching up with each other a little bit. Or they could
yeah,
do, which I don't think they've done yet, which is I won't. I can't say it, but basically, it kind of adds a whole new element to the whole fucking story. Like it will literally, if they show it, you'd just be sitting there going, "What? Like fuck! This just turns up the whole series on its head."
oh,
So
that would be good. I hope something like that happens.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's in a good way though, because when it
Right.
happened in the books, I was like, and it happened a little while ago in the books as well. Um, but they didn't because they didn't
Um,
show it. I was like, oh, that's weird. And they've not really talked about it anyway. Whatever. So that might happen. Um, yeah. So I think
okay.
it's one of those. But I was just trying to think like what else kind of happened because like Jamie's story is kind of that
Yeah,
because you're saying like not much has happened. The reason why is because they're
yeah.
filling it with loads of filler. Like there's loads and loads of scenes and characters and dialogue and
Yeah,
stuff that just doesn't happen in the books. And because the
yeah,
TV series used to make that quite snappy and just get to the point. In
yeah,
this one, they're like
yeah.
reveling around in conversation with each other and stuff like that.
It had so much to get through, didn't it, in the first few seasons? There was so much that had happened in the books. But now it seems like they're starting to slow down. They're like, oh, okay, let's fill here and a bit of filler there before there's only a few big, revelations to happen that we've actually got from the books and to go over the next few seasons. So I don't know. It does feel fillery this season for sure.
Yeah, I mean
I just
it's weird
want,
because it's like for me because now basically when this series ends, it's going to kind of coincide with where the series of books has ended. Kind of, I mean, because
yeah,
it's a lot of it's caught up now anyway. Um,
yeah,
so I'm really excited about it ending, just so that it's like right. So now I can think about so when the next series starts, all this stuff is probably going to be fresh for the most part. Um, but I'm interested to see how they'll end it because there's a couple of things that they could show or could do, or they might save till next season. And I'll be interested to see what they do because if they really wanted to go out with a bang, because it's now kind of caught up with books, they could
yeah,
essentially do something really fucking completely different and just really make a statement
right,
that they're going to go off and do their own thing. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Then that
Um,
means the people reading the books are like, anything can happen now.
yeah,
I think
basically.
that's what they're trying to do, though. I just want Hodor back. Well, how's Hodor been?
Yeah, I mean,
I want him
unless
to.
he's not going to be in it for a while now, like until next
I
season at
want him to
least.
have a spin-off. I want him to have a spin-off, and I want that giant guy, the giant
Yeah,
wildling. He's like just like him trying to fit into different houses and stuff, and he can't, and walking up on his own and just like killing people because he's really cool. And he's just like lumbering along, like, oh.
Must be such
And,
a
like,
lonely life. Like, yeah,
yeah,
when
he's
they're
just
all like when
boring.
they're running away and they just been leaving him being attacked. I was like, how the fuck's
He's
he
just
gonna do this? And he's just like,
yeah,
get
like,
off me, stuff.
yeah, like, he can look after himself, and he's just like, just like walking into the water, freezing cold, like with zombies on his face. It's just like, oh man, wait for me, guys.
Yeah, it was that. I was just like, they're just gonna leave him die. It was like, oh, he
Yeah,
just kind of just got through it somehow.
yeah, it's so funny. Then he walks into the whatever the wall, the big ice wall thing. What's it called? The castle or whatever.
The wall.
Um, the wall basically. When he walks in there, everyone's staring at him. He's like, "Yeah, you fucking haven't seen a giant before, motherfuckers." He's just such a funny character. He's on his own. There's another giant. So which because they killed a giant right when
They
they had
did,
the
yeah.
ambulance last season. So what was that? The only other giant, his brother or something, his
Yeah, they're
boyfriend.
like a race, I think. There's in the books at least, but there's kind of a few giants around. But it's just him.
Yeah, imagine it's like he's never gonna find a chick. Never
Well, he
gonna be able
could,
to.
but just not one. He not one. He went exactly without killing her. But
Yeah,
I love the way it's like we're running out of food massively. It's like this
yeah,
guy turns up and you're just like, oh man, he's totally he's gonna start eating
yeah,
us.
exactly. He's gonna eat someone pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is there any other films? Going on?
No, I think what I've seen, I don't know. No, this week I think I'm done. So,
Okay.
no.
Well, we've got a question here from a Mr. Peeping, Tom Stevens. That he's from Norwich, apparently. He sent a little picture, and it's just an outline of on a blank piece of paper. It's just an outline of a head and some shoulders,
All
um,
right.
and on some tracing paper. Um, and he
I'm
says, so he said, "Hi guys, big fan of the show. Um, listen,
only
listen,
fan of the show.
only fan of the show. Listen every week. When I'm not playing Mario Galaxy, I like to watch films too. I tend to watch Happy Feet 1 and 2 over and over again. But I was just wondering, I really like superhero films. His favorite, he says here, is the Phantom, if anyone remembers that. He was saying, are the only decent superhero movies origin stories? What do you think, Si?
Um, no.
Okay.
No, because what we were talking about last week, Spider-Man 2 is probably one of the best Marvel movies ever made. That's not an origin story, right?
No.
Um, I mean, I guess a lot of the ones that stand out would be origin stories. And the problem is there's so many origin stories because they keep fucking telling the same origin stories over again, like Spider-Man, for a new generation of moviegoers, right? So that's the problem. Origin stories will keep happening, and then we've got one coming up next month for the Fantastic Four, right? So it's going to keep fucking happening. But what do you think? You think that
No,
the
I
best?
think it's like I think origin stories don't I don't like them, to be honest, overall.
Yeah,
Like if you think about
that's far
Batman,
away.
it's like Dark Knight
Yeah,
was like the best one, I'd say anyway, and that's because you've already established
yeah,
who they are. And it's
yeah,
and it's kind of like they're once they're fully into they've realized who they are, and then it's like, what can you do
yeah,
with this character who's already like fully formed?
yeah, yeah.
Put them up against something that makes them question that, rather than you're watching them develop, like come from like being a lamo or something to a superhero.
Yeah, yeah.
I like them, but I don't think they make the best superhero films.
I think like 20 years ago, origin stories were like, oh my God, it's amazing to see the transformation. But now it's like this thing you have to get out of the way, like Captain America. We all knew Captain America was coming, but we had to get his origin story out of the way with the Red Skull and stuff before you can get to the good stuff.
Red
Which,
Skull.
yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I liked Winter Soldier because they'd got the origin story out of the way. They've transported Captain America to the modern day. Now it's kind of like, okay, now we can really, flex some muscle and explore some of these storylines. So I think these days origin stories they're just there to be there. You have to tell the new audience how the fuck this guy got his powers and stuff. But 20 years ago or 15 years ago, yeah, they were great origin stories because they were original then, weren't they?
Yeah, I
Um,
just don't think it's
well, whether
I think we're
now maybe
smarter than that now as an audience. Like they
yeah, I
do.
mean, maybe like Avengers, sorry, but they might maybe combine origin stories within to the franchises, you know, like they did with I guess Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. There wasn't really they didn't really tell their origin story in depth, but they introduced new characters into an already existing universe and franchise. So maybe that's the way forward with origin stories, kind of just introducing characters as it goes along.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm kind of it's yeah, it just gets annoying after a while just watching. It's like someone change. I think there's a time and a place for it, but I do enjoy the films that have already kind of got out of the way. I enjoy them a lot
Yeah.
more. It just picks
Mm.
up the pace a bit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and he says also, what would you say is maybe this is a thing we can talk about um, each week or something, but I was thinking about this anyway. But what would you say is the most what some of the more underrated slash overrated films that you can think of? In your
Hmm.
opinion?
It's a tricky one. You got anything that comes to
Yeah,
mind?
so I thought when I saw this, I was like, for me, like one of the most overrated films. It's still good, but
I got one a year ago.
it always makes people's like number one like favorite film of all time ever. And I'm
Not this.
like, it's good. It's not great. It's the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, yeah. It's true because I think we've talked about that before. Yeah, that really is. Yeah, you're right. That's what I was exactly what just came to mind because people think it gets like the number one movie on Channel 4's best films of all 100 top 10, 100, you know, whatever million films of all time,
Yeah.
and it's not the best film ever made.
No,
Far from
I
it.
know. It's like it's a good film. It's all right, but I'm like the best film like makes people's top 10 regularly as well. Like I'm like,
Yeah,
what is it? Am I missing something with this?
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm glad you agree.
Yeah, it is. You know, there are plenty of films that I think are far superior to it. But like you said, it is a great film. It is an amazing film, but it's not one of the best films, the top 10 top, you know, films of all time. But that's definitely up there with the most overrated films, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What would you say? Did you say you thought one?
That was it. That was it.
Oh, really? um,
Trying to think of a good underrated film.
well, for me, only because I was
But,
talking to someone about this the other day, is that
mm,
is Children of Men, because it's just kind of got lost into the ether and of cinema, and it's like for me that really
yeah,
stood out. It's like a really strong, that powerful film that just everything was clicked right about it. Like really well directed,
yeah,
great
amazingly
shots,
shot.
great story. Clive Owen
Yeah,
actually doing well.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so for me that was underrated.
Yeah, it's I guess it's also like what kind of films are a bit unheard of that people may not have seen, but are, you know, kind of like under the radar as well. There's
Yeah,
always a film that I loved that we talked about, you know, a while ago, just me and you anyway, but you know, like, as a kind of B movie film, The Mist with
yeah,
uh,
Thomas Jane.
yeah, and it's because it was what's it, Frank Darabont, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Um,
Shawshank,
and
Stephen
yeah,
King.
exactly. Yeah, it's funny, right? So it's not exactly underrated, but for those who hadn't seen it, I think it's an amazing B movie, and it's one of the best films. You know, I saw it whenever it was, must have been almost 10 years ago now. But at that point, I hadn't seen anything like that in a long time, and also had this had a real sense of dread to it at the end, and I like the pessimistic kind of morbid ending where it's like, oh, we're all doomed and fucked, and everything we've been doing is for absolutely no point whatsoever. Even though it was a small story about a small community in a bad situation, at the end it's kind of like, what's the fucking point? This is all going to go to shit.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved it, even though some of the effects were shit and some of the acting wasn't exactly great. But I just really enjoyed it, and
yeah,
that's a film that I'd really recommend anyone who likes like not really monster films, but B movie films, films about disasters and like you know, really peril and shitty situations, how these characters can get out of it. Yeah, I'd really recommend that. So that was one of my favorite films, you know, in the last 10 years. I'd always say to somebody if they hadn't seen it to check it out.
Yeah, well, also it's for Walking Dead fans. Like Frank Darabont used
Yeah,
a lot of the actors and actresses
yeah,
in the Walking Dead series, so you might notice a few familiar faces playing pretty much the same kind of
yeah.
characters in the Walking Dead. Anyway,
Similar situation. Fuck, we can't go outside. We're in a convenience store. What the fuck's going to happen next? You know, that situations happen in so many films, especially zombie films. And you know, it's got a lot of zombie elements to it because it is kind of like, you know, what, we can't step outside, otherwise some, you know, we don't really know what's out there. We'll get killed, infected, whatever. And then the relationship between all these characters in the situation slowly deteriorating. Um, and you know, it's he made that. He didn't have a particularly big budget to make that either, did he? He just had to be quite original with it.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was, I thought that was really good.
yeah, it was good. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. Anything you wanna add?
Let me think. I think for next time, maybe you'll bring it up again. Yeah, over underrated. It's a good question actually.
Yeah,
Nothing else to the top of my head. Um, so yeah, I think for next time maybe we can discuss it more.
yeah, it's everything. I got to go now because fucking I've got to be. The movie starts in 45 minutes. And I've got to drive there.
Shit,
Um,
okay. All
yeah,
right.
to get a move on. But
Yeah.
thanks to everyone for listening. You can head over to the Wild Boar BORE.com for more films, games, and whatever you like. You can listen to the gaming podcast, which will be up around the same time because I did it this morning with Ben, and I did a podcast as well. So that's called On the Game. So you can download that. You can tweet us at the Wild Boar UK. Again, that's BORE UK, or email us at thewildboartv@gmail.com. And that's it. Thanks very much for listening, and see you next week, I guess, or whenever.
Yep. Next week.
Yeah.
Do it. Thank you. Bye.